server and services. So the topic is server and services. I'm not talking anything about it. Just I will give you a quick review. Okay. Guys, peer-to-peer. In generally, you have a computers in the network. One computer having some data, and it is shared the data, so other PC is accessing the data. But both are not any server kind or a client kind of stuff. It is not a server, that is not a client also. Just a PCA contains the data, PCB is accessing the data. In that particular instant, so PCA becomes server, PCB become client. But really, there is no server client relationship. Okay, that is a peer-to-peer. See, it is it is a kind of work group model, sharing information, data, resources between two or more systems without any centralization. A system act like a server and other act like a client in the particular instance only. It's a peer-to-peer. Okay, it is a kind of workgroup model. Another one is a server and client. What is a server? Server provides a service. Server provides a service, client accesses the service. Server provides a service, client accesses the service. Web server, for example, you take a web server, provide a web service. I am able to open a web page. I am able to open a so I'm not getting breathing. Okay, so this is I've opened a website, then it is I can able to see web pages. Okay, so web server provide a web pages, web service kind of stuff. From where I'm accessing these web services, guys? From web browser. From web browser, right? So web server, web pages, web services. So the client web browser access web pages from web server. Client request for a service to the server. Server send a response to the client. Actually, I said a point, that is, what is a server and client? Server provide a service, client access the service. Normally, we think server provides something, we are going to take it. Okay, but it is not like that. Actually, client has to request. First client request. If without a client request, server don't give anything. Client request to the server, server respond to the client according to the request. How server will understand client request, or a client, how client will ask certain request to the server, it is purely depends upon the protocols in use. Of course, points, there is a work group domain, some information is also there, but here I want to tell about a different type of servers. Server and client, different type of servers based on what service it is providing. Web servers, file servers, DHCP servers, DNS servers, database servers, storage servers, virtualization servers, mail servers, deployment servers. These are some of the servers list. Okay, each server follows certain protocols to provide a service, or a client use those protocols to access the service kind of stuff. Guys, a machine become a server. You have a laptop or a desktop or some server kind of stuff, tower server or a blade server or a tower server, blade server or a rack mount server kind of servers. Okay, by installing operating system into the server, like a operating system wise. So voice, server OSs, server hardwares, server OSs. This is server OSs like a Windows servers 2019, 2022, 2016, like this. Windows servers, Linux servers, Unix servers. So like that, different type of servers are there. So whatever the server it is, when you call the server as a server, particular server is based on what kind of service it is providing. I have a very big tower server is there, and install Windows Server 2019 inside. It does not providing any services. Now what I have to call it that server? Just a server only. That's nothing. It is not a particular server. No use of that server. Server provide a service. How it is provide a service, guys? By installing the built-in features. So in each server operating system has certain built-in features, or by installing some packages like a Apache HTTPD kind of stuff, or by installing some applications like a Tomcat applications, a Microsoft Exchange applications, Zimbra kind of application, Oracle DB server application, or a Microsoft SQL server application, MySQL server application. By installing some application or a package, or by installing the built-in features like a Microsoft IIS, WDS, yeah, WDS, Hyper-V, QEMU kind of stuff, okay, or by configurations. So a machine become a server, so then server can able to provide a service. So this is about your server kind of stuff, guys. What is server? Server provide a service. Based on what service it is providing, we call that server as a that particular server. DHCP server, DNS server, file server, mail server, web server, okay, VPN server. So another hand, guys, morning only I told yesterday and today. So I taken this batch for a previous batch. So we'll see that one. Workgroup and domain. What is a workgroup and domain? So workgroup is a individual PC. No centralization. So you have a computers in the network. For example, my laptop is in the workgroup. My laptop is in workgroup by default. It's an individual PC. No need to control by some other server kind of stuff, right? So you have a 10 computers and you can easily administrate the 10 computers. Individually, you have a user, the user can able to manage. Like for example, I have a 5 computers, PC1, PC2, PC3, PC4, PC5. Akash is a local administrator of PC1. Kirti is a local administrator of PC2. Deepak is a local administrator of PC3. Okay. So Akash can able to change settings, install applications, uninstall applications, give permissions like that. He can do anything in the PC1 only. But Akash can manage PC1 but not PC2 or any other PCs. Same goes for Akash information, user information, password information stored in a PC1. Kirti's user information, password information stored in PC2. Deepak, user information, password information is stored in PC3. Akash cannot log into Kirti, Kirti cannot log into Deepak PC. Okay, so it is very difficult to administrate if you have a large number of computers individually. So one more point is here, guys. Workgroup means this is the workgroup, okay, and workgroup means decentralized administration, means each and every PC has their own administrator. They can do all the things. Every PC has their own administrator, no centralized control. One PC cannot log into another PCs. User and password settings information stored in their own PCs can control individually, to control or manage individually, not centrally. More number of devices increases, number of PCs are increases. It's difficult to manage. Why? Because of I have to do certain settings in a 100 computers. It is very difficult. So what is the solution here, guys? It is a domain. Centralized administration, centralized controller. It is called a domain controller. So we have a domain controller here. We have a computers in the network. Those computers is joined into the domain, so there are become a domain computers. What is this domain controller? Domain controller is a centralized server, contains a database, means Active Directory database, which stores user information, computers information, groups information, resource information, and service information. Okay, so these computers like a C1, C2, C3, C4, C5 are in the domain. So that information is in server database. C6 not joined into domain. That's why C6 is not in the domain database. Printer 1 is in the server. Printer 1 is in the domain. So the printer 1 P1 name is also showing. Okay. Now I created some users in the database. Okay. Yesterday I think for you also I shared this one video or not. I didn't remember. I shared one video to you. This is how to learn free courses part, and this one I shared. This is the one. Okay, so here practically what is work group domain, practical thing is there, group policy practical is also there. Okay, so I created a users in the server, so I am trying to log in into the domain computers, means client computers, so I can able to log in. So user in the domain controller is can log into any domain computer. Okay, but it is authenticated by server A only, because user information not in the individual PCs, it is stored in the central PC only. So when user is trying to log into a PC, your domain controller authenticate that user. Again, go back. What is a domain? Centralized administration. Centralized control called a controller is there, that is called a domain controller. Domain administrator is a admin for all systems in the domain. Domain administrator. Domain administrator is a admin for all systems in the domain, not a individual PC having a domain administrator kind of stuff, not like that. It is for all PCs. Domain administrator account is a administrator. So we can enforce various type of settings to the large number of users and computers in the domain. There's 100 computers, you can enforce certain settings directly through the network. So that is called a group policies. That is called a group policies. Of course, domain, the word is domain, but what is the domain controller? The domain controller contains the information of user groups, computers, and service resources in the database called Active Directory database. It is ntds.dat. Domain user can log into any domain computer. Domain user can log into any domain computer. He cannot log into any other than domain. Yes, what is an Active Directory? AD domain. First of all, AD domain or a domain abbreviation is, of course, a logical administrative boundary of users and computers. Maybe you have a computers in the same network, but may not be in the same domain. So if it is in the same domain, so then they will communicate each other. Sorry, they will share some domain information. That's a different point. So Active Directory database store. Active Directory database store. So when you just come to the Active Directory, guys, Active Directory is stores identity of users, groups, computers, and resources. Active Directory stores identity of users, groups, computers, services, and resources. Active Directory authenticates users and computers when they log into domain. 2 points, guys. What is an Active Directory? 2 points compulsory, tell properly. One is Active Directory database stores user, groups, computers, resources, and service information. So whenever the user is trying to log into a computer in the domain, so domain controller will authenticate the user, or Active Directory authenticates user when they log into a domain computer. Active Directory authenticates user when he log into domain computer. Okay, so that is about your Active Directory. And Active Directory database name is ntds.dat. Active Directory authentication protocol is Kerberos and LDAP protocol. Okay. Of course, if you search in a Google, what is an Active Directory? It will tell it is a Microsoft service. Of course, it is a Microsoft service. Okay, it is a Microsoft service introduced in Windows Server 2000. This Active Directory name changed to Active Directory Domain Services from to Server 2008 onwards. I have written something like Azure AD kind of stuff. It means Azure is a Microsoft Cloud, public cloud. Okay. Active Directory, Azure AD means it's you want Active Directory services from Azure Cloud, then you can go to Azure AD. Guys, understand what is Workgroup, domain, and Active Directory. Silence again. Two more points I will tell, then we will disconnect because it's a 5:23. Again, two more important. One is DHCP and DNS. Active Directory is important. DHCP, DNS, and also it is there are asking these questions. What is a DHCP? Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Port number is 6768. DNS server assign an IP address to the clients automatically. So I have a laptop, I got an IP address from DHCP server. You may get a question that is again, sir, where is the DHCP server? In our home, I don't have separate servers, then how I got the IP address? Very simple, guys. Your Wi-Fi router is your DHCP server. Your Wi-Fi router is your DHCP server. Router act like a DHCP server. Okay. So what is a DHCP? DHCP server assign an IP address to the clients automatically, or you can say DHCP server configures client IP address automatically. We can assign an IP address manually and automatically also. Manually means you have to go to settings, you have to change the IP address. You have to do the IP address part manually. Manual IP addresses cannot change easily, like when network is changed, IP address is changed automatically. That won't happen. So it is a stable IP address. You can change according to your requirement, but it won't change automatically. You have to change manually only. Okay. Next, if you have a more number of devices in the organization, so it is very difficult to administrate IP addresses. It is difficult to administrate IP address. There is a possibility of entering wrong IP address. Possibility of entering wrong IP address. Conflict means same IP 2-3 times you can able to assign kind of stuff. Possibility. Then it is another problem we will face it. Because large number of devices, somewhere we will get do mistakes. Difficult to administrate, difficult to manage IP address. Again, not everyone knows how to assign IP. I know how to assign an IP address, but entire my family does not know. how to assign IP address. Simple. And we have a different devices like a smart TVs are there, mobile phones, tabs. So the difficult, very difficult to assign an IP address, and we should know what kind of network we are using, IP network we are using. Based on that, we have to assign the IP addresses. That is your static manual problems. What is the automatic kind of stuff, guys? So automatic means you will get an IP address from DHCP server. So once you are connected with the network, so automatically you will get an IP address regularly. Okay, and there is a less possibility of conflicts or wrong IP addresses giving, or mostly no complaints against it. Okay, so DHCP server kind of stuff. And not required, no need to know, not required to know how to assign IP address. Most of the people are connected to their Wi-Fi router, but they don't know what is an IP address they are using. Okay, even without knowing about what is an IP address, is there is some IP address kind of concept is there. Even that is also people don't know, but still they are able to connect to the network, so they can able to access the internet also. Okay, so what is that? DHCP. Okay, so this is about your DHCP, guys. This is how DHCP works. So if there is a server, like your either it is Wi-Fi router or maybe there is particular server. So when you want an IP address, you send a request, DHCP understand, and automatically it will the IP address. Of course, DORA process, discover, offer, request, acknowledgement. So client need an IP address. So the client requests to the server by sending discovery packet. So server receive the discovery packet and reply with a server offer packet. Server offers the IP address to the client. Client requests for IP address to the server. Server send a acknowledgement. So finally, client is get configured with IP address. Okay, so that is called a DORA process. Discover, offer, request, acknowledgement. Client discover where is the DHCP server. Server offers IP address to the client. So the client requests for IP address to the server. Server send an acknowledgement with the full configuration of IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, other information including lease period. So see guys, in your network adapter settings, so you choose this first option called to get a new IP address from DHCP server. The second option is a manual option, which is you will get an IP to configure an IP address manually. Yeah, APIPA, automatic private IP address. If you are failed to get an IP address from DHCP server, so your system assign an IP address to your adapter automatically within the APIPA range. But it is you are failed to get IP address from DHCP server, so system assign a one IP address in the APIPA range. Like when you see an IP address 169.254, it is meaning is error. So that's the thing. Okay. So last one is DNS for today. Tomorrow you have to inform me, guys. You need further revisions are useful, anything. So please tell me. Then we will continue like this for every topic. Like tomorrow hardware will take it. We'll go to all the differences and networking. Any topics you need it, please tell me. I will explain. Okay. So this is the last for today. For your batch. Okay, so what is DNS? Domain name system, DNS server, maps name to IP addresses. Okay, port number is 53. So guys, here it is. When I try to communicate to some host, some website or a certain domain kind of stuff. Okay. So for example, here I've written some example to understand very simple way. One second. Okay. So I open a browser, I put a www.google.com or facebook.com or youtube.com. But I don't know the IP address of these .coms. I don't know the IP address of these .coms. Then what I have to do it? So I'm not doing anything. My system send a request to the DNS server. My system send a request to the DNS server and asking for a IP address of this google.com. And DNS server returns IP address of google.com. So now I got IP address of google.com, then I will communicate with the google.com with IP address. Guys, all communications are IP address only. So that is a very big diagram. Morning only I explained this one. If you want, you can see my morning video, but not now because I didn't post anything now. Nothing is posted. I'll post it later. Okay. So here it is. So if you ping to google.com, facebook.com, youtube.com, you'll get some IP address on your screen. Meaning is, first of all, you have to find an IP address of this particular domain or a particular host or particular server. First of all, we will find an IP address. How you find an IP address? Request sent to the DNS server. DNS server will give you IP address of that particular host or a particular domain or a particular site. Okay. So we'll get an IP address, then we'll communicate with the IP address. Now I'm telling just very simple way, but it is there. And there is another example for a DNS. Comparison DNS is your mobile phone contact list. What is mobile phone contact list? So we cannot able to remember all phone numbers of our relatives, brothers, sisters, and friends. So for every one phone number we can't able to remember. Right? What we will do? We'll create a mobile phone contact list. We'll save name and phone number. Right? So when I want to call to someone, so then I will open my contact list, mobile phone, open the contact list, select the name, search the name, select the name, and dial. Then call goes with the number only, not with the name. So the name is only for our memory purpose. For example, my memory is very short, means very close circuit, direct names. But if for a students, I will save. Now recently I'm not saving any student phone numbers, but for a students I will save like this, like a batch is CTS SD4 and name. Then I will categorize this is the place. Okay. So whatever it is, guys, remember always all communications with IP address only. We can't communicate with the name. We cannot communicate with the MAC address. MAC address is a physical address. IP address is a logical address. Okay. So we are always communicate with the IP addresses only, either IPv4 or IPv6. Okay. So what is a DNS server will do? It maps name to IP address. If you request an IP address for a particular name, so DNS server returns an IP address of a host in the domain or IP address. DNS server will give you, it returns an IP address, not assigns an IP address. Guys, DHCP server assign an IP address to DNS, DHCP server assign an IP address to client. DNS server tell the IP address of someone's IP address to you, to the client. Okay, someone's IP address. Like you asked me, sir, who is the what is the phone number of someone? Like you are asking, sir, please give me a phone number of Charan sir. Then I am giving Charan sir phone number to you. Means I am like a DNS. You are giving a name. I am giving you a phone number of for that person. Same way, Google.com, Facebook.com, YouTube.com is there. So their servers, they're having IP address. The DNS server is giving IP address to you of Google.com or Facebook.com or YouTube.com IP addresses. Okay. So those servers IP addresses given to you based on your requirement. Okay. So that is the thing. DHCP is not giving someone's IP address to you. DHCP is assigning an IP address. You don't have an IP address and it is giving you an IP address. Without IP address, you cannot able to communicate. So guys, these are the majorly two things. Okay. Servers and services. What is server? What is client? What is Active Directory? What is DHCP? What is DNS? And what is workgroup? What is domain? What is peer-to-peer also there. Okay, that's it for today. So tomorrow we will see that one.